Council, and I'm very excited to welcome you to a webinar that is breaking new ground for the AIA in California and actually nationally. As a small firm principal, I've been hearing my small firm peers for years talking about the need for access to robust 3D BIM tools with favorable training, costs, and license terms. A few years ago, I decided to try and do something about that. I talked to a lot of folks. I launched a national survey on the software needs of small firms, and I enlisted the support of many others. Taking what I'd learned, I wrote a letter as AICC president to every major software vendor in America and beyond, outlining the potential of working together, along with a short list of requests: perpetual license that is optionally upgradable, robust 360-degree interoperability, and integrated support. Today, I could not be more pleased to be here with representatives of one of America's top BIM software vendors and a group of practicing architects who have undertaken the journey toward real-world use of this particular tool. This is the rollout of the AICC Member Value BIM software program. We're going to hear and see examples of how this powerful software helps architects get their work done more efficiently and effectively from David Dengler, Associate AIA, the California Regional Account Manager for Vectorworks. David will also touch on the particulars of this limited time offer, which is intended to save money and time for those ready to try something different. The coolest part, for me, is the guild model we've come up with, where newbies to the platform can be part of a supportive group of other professionals moving along at the same time, cementing the notion we're all in this together. As Amy mentioned, you can type in any question at any time, but we'll probably deal with all those at the end. Following David's presentation, we'll hear personal insights into the use of the software by a number of working architects and intern architects. First will be Chad Hamilton, principal with Hamilton Aitken Architects. That will be followed by a joint presentation by Alex Loden and Dane Jordan Architects in training with Applied Architecture. Finally, we'll open it up for questions and conversation. So with that, David, take us on a journey that illustrates the benefits of Vectorworks.
Okay, my program now. Thanks, Mike. And my name is David Dengler. I am the Regional Account Manager here in California for Vectorworks. And I'd like to tell you about Vectorworks. I'm a longtime user. I started back in 1996. I've used Vectorworks on everything from residential to commercial, public works, museum design, even historic. This presentation is going to focus on the vast tool set included in Vectorworks to show you how design can be innovative and fun. Vectorworks is a great design tool. We're a technology leader. Vectorworks has a user base of around 600,000 worldwide. It runs on both the Macintosh and Windows platform, so you can design the building and everything in it. We provide the tools to help architects capture their ideas, develop, and communicate them. So what makes Vectorworks great and sets it apart from the pack? You can design the way that you want to design. You don't have to follow a predetermined workflow. You can integrate Vectorworks into your office at any level. Simple CAD, 2D, 2.5D, even 3D, or all the way to full BIM. It's your choice. So let's take a look at the tools built into Vectorworks. Vectorworks has a powerful 2D CAD heritage. For more than 31 years, Vectorworks has been providing professionals with unparalleled CAD line work and graphics. 2.5D is where we integrate our parametric hybrid tools, such as the window tool you see here, to generate a schedule. these worksheets are bidirectional. So when you change the model, the schedule updates, and vice versa. Changes to the schedule and the model updates. By the way, if you're currently using a 2D CAD workflow and you're looking for an easy way to transition into a BIM workflow, this is a great way to start. Vectorworks has a powerful push-pull tool that will be very familiar to anyone who has used SketchUp. But we bring even more to the table with deformation options. Here's an example. Start with a 2D primitive, then extrude and give it a twist. Extract an edge so it can be used as a path to extrude a 2D shape along. The extruded path can then be duplicated, mirrored, and converted into a solid shape. After a few more manipulations of the solid form, the result will be something that we can wrap an external structure around a building with. Massing models for conceptual design can be produced in a number of ways within Vectorworks. Here we're going to use the push-pull tool to create a basic form that will take us all the way to BIM. Push-pull works in addition and subtraction. Now we're going to add a few design elements like decks. We'll place them at the floor levels, and now it's time for the magic. Model the floor plan. This converts the model into intelligent walls. The walls can then be adapted with doors and windows, even a corner window like you see there. We can begin to build up the model, even the internals of the model, even add columns and posts out front. We can build the model's floor package up, and we can really develop the floor package with joists that we can do takeoffs in the end. The joists themselves can be modified into TJIs, and you have your pick of how you'd like to do it. Eventually, we can render it up so we have something really nice to show to our client, a full BIM model. Non-uniform rational B-spline, or NURBS modeling. This is similar to Rhino, but again, it's built right into Vectorworks. This is another way to form make and move from model and continue into BIM if you choose. Vectorworks also has a subdivision modeling tool, also known as cage modeling. It offers yet another powerful tool to make your ideas into reality. If you've never tried it, it's a lot like molding with clay. Now, in its second generation, subdivision is more refined and it's more powerful. We added more ways to control the cage, and now we also have bridge mode. This allows you to join two subdivisions together. You simply open up the face and begin the bridging process. When you're all done, you have one model. We also added mirror mode. So when you're modeling, you can mirror the object around itself. And it's pretty much straightforward, just like you'd think. You'd pick the axis that you want to work off of, flip it around, create your mirror, and off you go. You get the same controls, except this time it's reflective. In Vectorworks, we've also made almost every 3D optional convertible to a cage model. This brings you control like you've never had it before. So we've got our model all developed, or we're moving into design development, let's say. And we need a way to view the model holistically. That's where the ClipCube tool comes in very handy. This is a live action tool that you can move through the model both vertically and horizontally to reveal the inner spaces and study the workings. Now let's move on to collaboration. And of course, within Vectorworks, you have all the usual suspects, and I hope some surprises for you. Most common, probably DWG, the longtime workhorse of the industry. Yes, and now with 2017, you can bring Revit content right into Vectorworks. The bonus here is you can get content right from manufacturers and drop it right into your model. You can also import PDFs. You can bring in a PDF as a reference to use a background, or if the PDF is a vector-based PDF, Then you'll be able to snap to it, or you can even ungroup it and get to the elements buried within it. Vectorworks offers the ability to import GIS information in the form of shapefiles. You can choose the appropriate layer of information from the shapefile and then use them in your model. In fact, in Vectorworks, you'll be able to create a digital site model from the imported contours you use and use our comprehensive set of tools to modify the terrain and even calculate cut and fill. Point cloud is a relative newcomer for capturing data using 3D laser scanning technology. Vectorworks has the ability to directly import and organize point cloud data, letting you move forward with accurate documentation of existing conditions. So how about export? Again, Vectorworks has a lot of options. Our DWG export is second to none. And just for bonus points, we support a mountain of legacy, going all the way back to version 12, and that's for both import and export. So your years of work are not lost. Our PDF export supports 3D, and with 2017 Service Pack 2 release last week, you can now send PDFs to Bluebeam. And in just a minute, I'll tell you why that's important. IFC, or Industry Foundation Classes, is an international, vendor-neutral, open standard for sharing BIM models. IFC opens the world of interoperability between Vectorworks and the vast landscape of software tools used by your consultants and others in the AEC field. IFC will replace DWG and will become the future of file sharing and coordination for professionals within the AEC community as BIM grows. Another area of collaboration is project sharing. This is done primarily in Office. Project sharing allows more flexibility for how firms decide to divide the workload of a project. You can check out from the layer level all the way down to the object level, and Vectorworks gives you far more flexibility in how the work is divided. And of course, you can access the project file through cloud-based storage, and you don't need BIM software, a BIM server software, or a high-end dedicated server. The Resource Manager is our powerful library system. There is a local library and the online library. You can search the web for content like from manufacturers. You can even bring in content from the 3D warehouse with SketchUp import, and that can all be ready to use where you need it, when you need it. Energos is our built-in energy analysis and simulation tool. Energos uses the Vectorworks BIM data along with data like R values and areas. The passive house calculation method is used along with climate, occupancy, and system configuration to calculate various energy performance values, such as overall demand, carbon footprint, or heating and cooling loads. Marionette brings visual scripting for computational design to Vectorworks. Similar to Grasshopper or Dynamo, Marionette is the only cross-platform scripting environment based on the Python scripting language. So you have it built in, no additional purchases are necessary. The new Camera Match feature in Vectorworks allows you to integrate your design with photos from the actual site, easily creating composite images that match the perspective of the photo, giving clients an enhanced view of their project in context. Creating custom view crops and masking out other elements is easier since they're done within Vectorworks and not in an external photo editing application. And yes, you can do both external and interior views. Creating presentation boards is easy in Vectorworks. From rough sketch style to photorealistic, RenderWorks, the built-in rendering engine in Vectorworks, saves time because you don't have to switch to an external application. Choose from stock rendering styles or create your own using HDRI backgrounds. We have ambient occlusion and caustics, along with camera controls like focal length, f-stop, and shutter speed. You can create compelling presentations from right inside Vectorworks. But presentation boards can only go so far. They're stranded in flatland. Vectorworks can take your designs to your clients like never before with WebView and virtual reality. WebView puts your model on the web to be viewed in any browser. You can fly around or switch to first-person mode and walk through the model as easily as navigating a web browser. Vectorworks knows where your feet are in the model, so as you navigate up and down stairs, it'll take you right through. You can even send the tiny URL to a mobile device, such as an iPad we're seeing here, and it works there too. You can pan the device around up and down, and when you look far down, you'll see a set of controls that can operate for automatic motion to move you through. And just like on the desktop, you can move through the model freely and fluidly, feeling everything, bumping into the walls. But we took it one step further, and that is we went to virtual reality with stereo mode. With stereo mode, you can go to a smaller device, such as an iPhone, plug it into a Google Cardboard, hold it right up to your face, and there you see the model as if you were actually inside of it in full 3D depth. The experience is actually quite immersive. Vectorworks does have a complete set of mobile tools for viewing your work on the go and sharing it with your clients. 2D, 3D, and BIM, Vectorworks has you covered. But in the end, we all need to produce documentation, our condoc set. Vectorworks brings it all together beautifully with great 2D printed line work that Vectorworks is famous for. Plans, sections, elevations, and details are all coordinated from your model. And remember, when changes occur to the model, your condoc set will be updated accordingly. We also have outstanding control of line weights and additional graphic elements such as patterns, hatches, tiles, gradients, and images, any of which can be completely customized to meet your firm's demanding standards. So that brings us around to the end of my presentation and the value bundle that we're going to offer to all the California Council members. What we have is for new customers, we are going to do a 20% discount on Vectorworks Architect or Designer, free a 1-year subscription to Vectorworks Service Select, a free license of Bluebeam Review Standard for each Vectorworks license purchased. So if you purchase multiple licenses, you get the same number of Bluebeam licenses. Current users, we haven't left you out. If you have an older license and would like to upgrade, we'll give you a 20% discount on the upgraded license and joining Vectorworks Service Select for the first time. Everybody that takes part in the offer that we have with AIA, you're going to be enjoying some of our free seminars that we're going to have set up in the future. They're going to begin to get you up and running fast, and that's 2D, 3D modeling all the way up to BIM. And at that point, I'll hand it back to Mike.
Thanks, David. What a great job. Amazing, really. Even though we use the program here in the office, I saw some things there that I wasn't personally even aware of. So now we're going to turn to another very experienced Vectorworks user who also is a principal in an architectural firm. And Chad, take us on a journey through your experiences, long time with Vectorworks.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay, so thanks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our firm's work, why we use BIM, and how we use Vectorworks to do BIM. Our firm's 25 years old, and we've been using Vectorworks since we started. It's the only CAD or BIM program I personally have ever used. Our office primarily designs for education, although we do a certain amount of other public work. We do new construction, we do modernization and renovation. Most of our clients, as I said, are public clients. So because we're working in a public bidding environment, our clients demand really tight well-coordinated drawings where we have few or almost no errors. And BIM really helps us do that. These are some images of a school that we just finished building. This design starting, I think, in late 2013, and it was constructed over 2015 and just finished this past summer. We use BIM to create a workflow for our design process that helps us actually starting from the very beginning of design. For us, it's really important to have a three-dimensional work environment so that we can show our clients, even early in the design process, what their building is going to start to look like, so we can walk them through their spaces and really get good decisions from our clients. We use this all the way from early design through construction documents and also through construction administration. So probably most people have some kind of an idea of what BIM is. For us, BIM means it's an idea about using just a single instance of a design, in this case a computer model, to represent the design. And then from that model, everything else is taken. And so the idea is you draw it once, draw it right, and have a very good set of documents with minimal coordination errors or problems, and a design that you can really visualize all the way through. So the advantages are better coordination, fewer errors. It's a reality-based paradigm because it focuses on building a model rather than making a drawing. And for us, we find that it's a faster, more productive working environment. So a lot of BIM programs, or some BIM programs, some CAD programs, require that you already know a lot about your design before you really start to use the programs effectively. We've designed our workflow around Vectorworks so that it's actually a design platform, so that we can really start with minimal information. We start with the program of the building, and we start to develop maybe a massing model or a sketch plan, or even a concept diagram, a bubble diagram. And then slowly we transform that into a model, which is our design tool. So that way, the work that we begin with informs the design all the way through. And then as we near completion through the various stages of design, we can get our plans, our sections, other drawing views just out of this one model. There are a lot of ways you can look at the model. I've been showing some cutaway isometric views, and I've been showing a simplified sort of rendering mode that Vectorworks uses called OpenGL. You can actually run this as you do your work. This isn't really a rendered mode per se. It's just a slightly better way than a hidden line view or a wireline view of looking at the model. We can also do interior views. This is slightly rendered with, or slightly touched up with Photoshop, but it's primarily a view straight out of Vectorworks. And this is a classroom study for the project. Again, you can zoom in on certain areas. You can actually work live in 3D. In this case, if we were designing this teaching wall, this wall of casework in a classroom, we could actually work on it in 3D and hide the rest of the model and get a lot of really good information as we did our design and studied the relationships. So this is just a wireline view of the same model. You can see there's a lot of information just in terms of line work embedded in it. I showed this to give a sense of how we build up the information in the model. So almost all the pieces of this model are built of parametric tools. In other words, you enter parameters and it becomes something. Elements like walls or doors and windows. The casework or the cabinets that I showed earlier are parametric objects. Stairs, furniture, all of these are parametric objects, which makes it very, very easy to design You can also import a lot of standard building elements like drinking fountains or benches. A lot of manufacturers have standard model elements you can bring right in. So this is an example of a formatted plan drawing sheet. You can draw in either 2D or 3D mode, and depending on what you're designing, one might be easier than the other. And I tend to flip back and forth to look at different things in different ways while I'm designing. But even when you're drawing in 2D mode, and that can be a lot of the time, you're still entering the information in 3D. So that even if you're drawing in plan, you can at some point look at the whole building as a model, and you'll be entering 3D information the whole time. This is a presentation plan we did for a meeting, just to show our clients some of the relationships between classrooms. So it's very, very easy to manipulate this same information, just add a little bit of rendering or color to make a plan work for one thing, one purpose rather than another. So as I said, as you model, you're actually creating elements that can be presented in 2D or in 3D. So these wall sections were cut through the building. There's a lot of information from the model in these sections, and then we've added additional information to annotate the drawings and make some elements a little more detailed, things that you wouldn't necessarily want to model, like maybe some of these beam intersections, so that we're constantly developing our documentation and our detailed design, but the model really forms the basis of it and helps make sure that what we're designing is true to the model. You can also get a lot of information in the form of schedules. So I'm showing a window schedule and a louver schedule. This information was actually extracted out of the model. This is true for doors and finishes and other parametric objects. Vectorworks has the ability to actually create a schedule that you can then place on a schedule sheet that shows what's exactly in the model. So as long as it's tagged to show up in a schedule, no one's going to forget it or give the wrong dimension. It's always going to be there, coordinated with your model. You can also interactively, for many of the schedules, you can interactively influence a model element. So for example, in a door schedule, you can set your door schedule, set it up so that if you want to change a door from a 3-foot door to a 3'6" door, or change the height from 6'8" to 7 or 8 feet, you can do that right in the schedule, and it'll actually affect the model. We use Vector. Our office is a medium-sized office. For most projects, we have several designers working on a project. And almost every project, we have multiple people accessing the files to create different drawings. Vectorworks can accommodate this. They have a work sharing system so that multiple people can work on the same file at once, which facilitates that. We do have a BIM manager that helps us keep everything organized and on track. We take a lot of advantage of Vectorworks training, as well as third-party trainers, and we also do a lot of in-house training. It's really important that people are doing it, know what they're doing, know how to use the program, and that you've set up your office workflow so that it works well with the software. That would be true probably of any program. I think the software documentation for Vectorworks is very good. It's pretty easy to find answers. Also, there's an increasing number of very good third-party documentation for Vectorworks. I also think it has excellent user support. We can always get our answers very, very quickly. So this is our last rendered view. And this isn't a super high level of rendering. This is something we'd probably do in-house, but this was done entirely within Vectorworks. There's no added rendering at all. And this is the building as it turned out. So thank you, and I will turn it back to the moderator.
Hey, thanks, Chad. Great job. Wow, you've really embraced this tool in a profound and comprehensive way. Next up, we have a sort of a tag team from my own office. Alex and Dane are with us together. They're both relatively new users of Vectorworks and have made the transition from sort of FlatCAD into the world of BIM. Take it away, guys.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you very much, Mike. My name's Alex, and I've been working with Mike about 3 years here in applied architecture, and I'm joined by my coworker Dane Jordan.
Hi, I'm Dane. I've been working at applied architecture for about 9 months now.
Yeah, and I've been using Vectorworks for a little over a year now, I believe, and I've really enjoyed getting to learn a lot more about the software and the different capabilities that it has. Just wanted to show a few examples of some projects that we've worked on over the past year. A number of these are primarily residential. We've got some single-family homes, some new construction, some remodels, and a multifamily project that we've worked on as well. Just looking at a variety of different project types and the different opportunities that we've had with Vectorworks. This project here is a new construction that we've worked on that the client was really excited to be able to see the building and the design in 3D, and we've been able to utilize Vectorworks 3D modeling software to illustrate the design in conjunction with developing the construction documents and the 2D plans that are needed for getting the building permits and discussing the project contractors as well. And in the past, we've actually used AutoCAD and SketchUp primarily as kind of like a tag team of using both softwares to both illustrate the design to the city and clients and the contractors in 3D with SketchUp's modeling abilities, but then also having to develop the full project in AutoCAD as well. And what we found is that the clients were very appreciative of the 3D modeling, but sometimes didn't want to pay for the additional time it would take to model the project, or then we would just end up having the model that would not be able to be used for construction documents long term. And what Vectorworks has allowed us to do is to merge those two capabilities into one platform and create a 3D model in conjunction at the same time as developing all of the plans and elevations that are needed to create the construction documents.
So I have a background in, I've used AutoCAD, SketchUp, Rhino, as well as Vectorworks, and they all sort of have like a deficiency in some areas. SketchUp fails to really give you a solid way to create construction documents. AutoCAD has really limited 3D capabilities, and then Rhino has like the strongest 3D pure modeling. You can do a bunch of freeform and really cool, crazy things, but in creating construction documents with Rhino is sort of wonky as well. But Vectorworks is sort of like a hybrid of all of those. You saw earlier in the presentation all the cool, crazy 3D forms you can do, but it also has like a really solid platform for creating construction documents and has a relatively intuitive 3D modeling like SketchUp.
And it's really allowed us to interact with our clients in a much better way than simply portraying the design in 2D as well. What you see here is a project that's actually a large addition that we worked on, where we were able to model the existing project relatively easy in 3D, and then in the same file modeled the proposed project. And so we're able to flip back and forth just by adjusting the visibilities in the design layer with the clients in real time, and to illustrate to them the difference between what their house looks like before and then after, without even needing to create 2D static renderings. We're able to show them the model in 3D and spin it around even while just interacting with them. And so we found that that's been really helpful, and we're also able to export 3D PDFs and actually give clients files that they're able to use on their own computers. What we have here is the multifamily project that we've worked on with Vectorworks, and we found that we're able to create a lot more detailed files just by accessing different components from the online libraries and the different things that are available through the Vectorworks Service Select and the various resources available online. And as we've been able to get a lot more experience with Vectorworks, we found that there's a lot more opportunities with the rendering software that's built into the program than may be available in a lot of other softwares. What you see in some of these images is actually the decals that are applied to various other render surfaces, and we're able to add a sense amount of lighting and shadow as well. And what we've noticed is that using Vectorworks has kind of become a process of thinking differently. At first, it was initially a bit difficult to grasp how modeling components worked. It's very similar to some other softwares in many ways, but also created a few challenges just in understanding the difference between 2D drafting and the 3D BIM modeling. But we found that the opportunities with the Service Select and the support staff at Vectorworks have been able to learn the program really efficiently as well. What you see here is an interior space where we were remodeling a kitchen for a small residential client. This didn't include any addition or any new construction, but mostly involved the removal of a wall between the kitchen and dining room. And in the past, we would have likely developed this in SketchUp and modeled it in 3D so the clients could experience the space, but the model would not have been able to be used for construction documents. And what we're able to do here is provide a much cleaner and more crisp rendering of the space while also being able to use the same model for construction document purposes.
It's also much faster to create this rather than creating it in CAD and then SketchUp, since everything can just be input: cabinet sizes, countertop heights, component sizes. All of that can just be built while you're creating the 2D drawings, and then it's just automatically extruded outward into 3D, open the 3D view, and then it's all ready to show to the client.
Yeah, the parametric modeling has really allowed us to work a lot more efficiently and even interact with the clients in real time during meetings, and they really appreciated the opportunities that Vectorworks has created. So yeah, with that, we'll turn it back over to you, Mike.
Hey, thanks, guys. Great job. It's really incredible to see the range of the variety of ways the tool is being used in real-world offices. I'd like to find out from Amy if we've had questions come in. I did have some questions that I was asked prior to the meeting, but if we have people online or that have typed in questions, we'll take those first. Amy, are you with us?
Sorry about that. Mike, no questions just yet, but if you want to start and we can jump in with extra questions.
Okay, one question that I'm often asked, and I don't really have a great answer for it because my firm is so small, that I'd like to ask Chad. Given that you're a mid-sized firm, you do larger projects, and I'm sure you have a fairly heavy schedule given the uptick in the economy. What about the challenges in finding staff? That's probably the most common question I'm asked. If you're not in a platform that's, the mainline platform that's used by the majority of firms, what happens when you want to hire somebody?
So I would say increasingly, it's becoming increasingly easier to find people that have knowledge of Vectorworks. There's a pretty robust program in schools, but an increasingly larger number of firms are starting to use Vectorworks. But even if someone doesn't know Vectorworks, we found that it's easy enough to learn, and it shares so many concepts with other programs that it really doesn't take people very long to get up to speed. We have a pretty well developed workflow that we've documented, and between our our in-house drawing manual and some training and other staff helping out, it's pretty easy to get someone up to speed and drawing productively in Vectorworks.
Great. That's good and comforting for me personally. The other question, Chad, that I am asked most often is, we work on projects that are small enough that coordinating with consultants is probably a whole different scale than what you're dealing with. But the second most often asked question is, what happens when you're working with consultants that don't use that platform, and how does that work in terms of clash detection and really taking advantage of the power of BIM to create documents that, as you noted early in your presentation, are as error-free as possible?
Yeah, so there are a couple of there's several elements in your question, I think. So in terms of coordinating with consultants, actually we have yet to work with a consultant that worked on Vectorworks. It's very easy to export from Vectorworks, however, so that we can easily make base sheets for our consultants using a DWG format that they can then import into AutoCAD. Several years ago, we were working on a concert facility, and we designed a truss, about three-dimensional truss, and we actually imported and exported back and forth to AutoCAD 3D this very elaborate three-dimensional element, and to our structural engineer. And it was very interesting how we could work back and forth in that way, and this was maybe 10 years ago. The other thing you asked about was clash detection. So clash detection really takes place primarily in a different program, something like Navisworks or something. And so Vectorworks can export an IFC file as like Revit or other 3D BIM programs would do. And then the clash detection would take place in a third program. So that's also possible to do. It's built into the program.
Cool. Well, thanks, Chad. I'm curious, do you use SketchUp in your office? You've been using, you mentioned you'd been using Vectorworks for, gosh, 25 years, and way before there even was such thing as SketchUp. But I'm just curious if you use other tools like SketchUp in addition to Vectorworks.
We do use other tools, and we used to use SketchUp a lot more. Like you, we used to use SketchUp maybe more for its ease of use and its quickness, but we found it was such a we were really carrying two models through the design process, and that was just an incredible burden. Once we started to make changes based on design meetings, we'd start to change our Vectorworks model, and then our SketchUp model would be out of date, and SketchUp is, in my opinion anyway, a lot more difficult to revise or modify. And we eventually just went back to a straight Vectorworks design process because it's still very easy to model, and as we make changes, it's constantly coordinated. So yeah, we went that route, and we pulled back, and now we're going in this more pure Vectorworks direction.
So when David did his presentation, I'm new to Vectorworks, very newer even than Alex and Dane. But when he ran through some of the things that are in there, the Energos, the marionette scripting, the camera match, I'm curious, how many of those advanced aspects of Vectorworks are you using in your actual production environment?
So some of these are pretty new. I think Energos is in it's about a little over a year old, and we're still working with a way to get Energos into our workflow. Our projects are large enough that we're typically hiring a mechanical engineer who's going to be responsible for the actual energy calculations. I think probably for a single family residence, Energos would make a lot more sense. For us, we've already got someone that we're paying to do that, so we don't use that much. I have several people in our office have toyed with Marionette, which is also just a little bit over, maybe it's 1 or 2 years old, and it's pretty cool. It's hard. It's you know, we're not computer programmers. It's written in a Python language, and we haven't, although we've toyed with it, we haven't found anything that is really just for our office a what's the word, like a killer app for Marionette yet. The camera match we do use because we frequently are going out in the field to take entourage shots for a presentation, and we do use camera match to sync our entourage shots to our model. So that's actually incredibly useful. That's been around for a while. It was a third-party app that I think then Vectorworks brought in, but incredibly useful. We also use walkthroughs. Um, uh, one of the things you didn't mention, the whole solar aspect, the heliodon aspect that Vectorworks has, we find very useful in sustainable design, both for shading design and also for daylight design, to make sure that we're getting adequate natural daylight into our classrooms. So there's a lot there that is really incredibly useful just in day-to-day design.
Have you created 3D PDFs? That was one of the things I wasn't even aware they existed a year ago, and we found for our residential clients in particular, they love getting 3D PDFs. I mean, they just love it. They can actually cut sections and do walkthroughs. And have you found that that a valuable part of your practice?
You know, we haven't taken advantage of that. Maybe that sounds like something we ought to look into, but no, so far we don't.
How about the presentation aspects of RenderWorks? We've not used that. I saw that you had like you took a floor plan, and I wasn't quite sure how you did that. You just created like layers with separate simple forms that you applied the color to and that you could turn on and off.
Yes, the rendered floor plan is really straightforward. It's just adding some colored geometry to and turning off all the working drawing stuff from the plan. But we've done a lot with RenderWorks because we do some level of rendering all the way through the design process. We found that clients are really expecting a lot more than they used to, and I mean, I remember we were working on a project. It must have been our first or second design meeting, and we had a simple form, a massing model of the building, and one of the clients said, "Well, uh, we're expecting something that's brick to match our existing buildings, and we didn't have, we were using some generic brick, and it didn't exactly match their buildings." And people are really expecting that from us as architects. You can go to Home Depot and get a kitchen design that's fully rendered. So having more ability and having it built into our workflow is just super important. So yeah, we do a lot of renderings. We typically don't do photorealistic stuff until maybe the very end. And the rendering that I showed, the second to the last slide, that did use RenderWorks that was purposefully not taken to a photorealistic level, but it does have shade, shadow, entourage from Vectorworks, parametric entourage. But yeah, we definitely use that all the way through.
Cool, thanks. I'm curious if Alex or Dane have questions for Chad, given that we're early on the learning curve. You guys see anything that piques your interest that you want to comment on?
Yeah, Chad, you mentioned that you guys primarily work with a single file throughout the design process, and just curious what your process is in working with file sizes and being able to utilize a single file and develop renderings and model while trying to maintain the smaller file sizes so that the file is workable.
So if we're going to do a photorealistic rendering, we would save a copy of the model, and we would put our textures and whatnot in that. And then if we made a substantial change to our model that we wanted to take into our photorealistic model, we'd probably copy and paste from one model to the other the changed elements, because you're right, file size can get really big. But for the school model that I showed, we maintained a single base file that had all of our model geometry. It had basic textures and materials so that we could do, sort of the level of rendering that I showed you, which is a little bit pedestrian. I mean, it's a little bit primary. It's not a really fully developed as fully developed as a program can do, but it was what we would do all the way, say, through a design development phase. And then we would break out for more detail. We would do a different iteration of that model, just for a highly developed photorealistic rendering. But by keeping one model and getting all of our documents from that, then we've got that consistency. In the past year or so, Vectorworks has had a pretty fully developed workgroup sharing system, so that you can actually check out layers, or at this point you can actually check out just objects. Someone in the drawing team, the design team, modify them and then check them back in so someone else can use them. So it's actually really very easy in a networked environment to have the number of people you need on a medium-sized project to all work on the same file at the same time. Of course, you're presenting on, well, as you know, sheet layers, and so that kind of stuff, it can be in the same model, or it can be in a model that references things out. Different offices do either technique. Historically, we've used a referencing system, but now that the Vectorworks work sharing is so much more robust, we're starting to do more stuff just in a single model. And I could actually, if you have another question, I can look on our server and see what size that school model is.
Yeah, I actually had another question, but it was for you, but maybe David could tackle this. One of the things, the slide that's up right now is a simple, almost like SketchUp-like massing level, but it has shadows and it's got more detail. But one of the things as an architect that's really important to me are the screeds, the grooves and the surfaces that define elements. And I can tell you that that's something we've struggled with on our Vectorworks projects. We showed that one example of that house that was pretty rectilinear. Yeah. And the screeds, we never did really get the screeds to be in the right places. We'd have screeds show up that weren't intended, that were just joints where floors met walls, and then we try and create screeds where we wanted them, and it's just something that we either don't quite get it, or there's some tricks that are being used in practice.
I would say that's, modeling a reveal is probably something we don't do. There's a whole philosophy of level of development and what you model and what you don't. So probably we would put something like that on as a decal, or as something we do more manually with Photoshop or something. I understand what you mean, and that is something that modeling at that level, that kind of quarter-inch or half-inch reveal level, or even thinner, is that's a tough thing to do. Getting back to the earlier question, the model that I showed you is about a 40 meg model, which is not that big.
Right. Yeah. No, that's definitely in the workable size. One of the reasons why screeds become an issue is if we're sharing a 3D PDF with a client, and the screeds are not rendered properly on that, they mistakenly think that what they're seeing is the actual design intent. Mm-hmm. And because they're looking at it in 3D, we can't just like draw on the, we tried like drawing on the surface or adding elements to mask lines that were coming through unintentionally. But again, that's one, and it's only been on the projects like the very flat rectilinear compositions where the skreets are a big part of the way you articulate the surface.
I think doing horizontal reveals would probably be fairly easy, especially if they were occurring near, say, floor lines, or well, actually anywhere. But those you could do, and maybe I could touch base with you offline on that. The vertical reveals much more difficult to model it. But
David, do
getting
you
them
have
in,
any?
yeah.
Sorry, I was going to ask David if
Yeah,
you wanted to jump in.
Sure. You can modify wall surfaces. There's ways to do that. You do end up with a sort of a level of refinement when you get very small, like like Chad was saying, down at the 1/4 inch level, where it just gets difficult to see. And then it has a lot to do with how you're going to apply light to the model to be able to show the reveal. So there are ways to do that. In fact, I can think of 2 or 3 tutorials that are up on the Surface Select website that show you how to work with walls like that, and I can definitely give you links over to those.
Cool. Well, I didn't mean to get sidetracked down in the weeds here, but I couldn't resist. So we're nearing the end of our allotted time. Amy, just to check in with you, do we have any questions that we haven't addressed?
No further questions. Just a great comment about the VR using your iPhone and Google Cardboard is really cool, and it sounds like you guys have answered a lot of questions. Thus, there are none. So very helpful.
Cool. Well, I think this is an example of how this notion of a guild works when you find people like something as minor as skreets, and rather than sort of try and figure it out on your own or be digging through a lot of material, it's nice to be part of a sharing environment where you can just ask how someone's handling a particular issue, and that is part of this value program, so that those who are joining or are new to Vectorworks or relatively new like us, we're Vectorworks users, but we're in a whole different league than Chad and how he's using the platform. It's nice to have those other folks to lean on. So any wrap up comments, David or Chad or Alex or Dane?
No, just to let everyone know that they can feel free to contact me. They can also give me a direct call right on my line, which is 443-542-0435. That brings right through to my desk here in California, and regular business hours as everybody out here. Also, when you do work with us, I'm at your service too, to make sure that you're a successful user and enjoying the program. So feel free to use me as a resource.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us. I give you back at least a couple of minutes here to your busy day, and hope that we'll see some of you in the future webinars when we're rolling out the actual purchase side of this equation. So thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone.